Hey, Teddy K here for Best Buy Plugin, and in this video review we take a look at the LG G6. This is the company's latest flagship smartphone that sports a new look and a bit of a new direction too. What they've ended up with is a device that is far better than anything that they've created before. Usually that tends to happen each year, but this time is a little different because from the G5 to the G6 there's a significant difference, both in how it feels and even to some degree in how it functions. Putting the G6 side by side with the G5 makes it pretty obvious that there's a difference here. The modularity is gone, but the metal has stayed. The only difference being that things are flatter and the metal in the back is now layered with some glass that gives it that sheen and that shine. It also makes it a fingerprint magnet, but that's a whole different story. It is a longer phone, and that's largely because of that 5.7-inch display on the front. So everything else around that screen is more or less the same. Yes, the bezels are smaller, which gives the screen all kinds of room in the front, but looking around the device from the edges to the back, the ports, the buttons, everything is placed pretty much the same way it was with the G5, so not a lot of difference there. Software has been LG's bugaboo for the last two iterations at the very least, and the issue here is not whether the software is clean or how it looks, it's actually how stable and consistent it is. So is there any kind of a boot loop issue? Is there some sort of a problem that might pop up? Now, in my testing, I didn't notice anything that was unusual, and in fact, I preferred that this cleaner look that they went with, which is a little bit different from the G5, it worked for me. And I would argue that it would probably work for a lot of users too. It's not stock Android, but at least it's closer to that, and LG sets aside some of its own apps. And it always helps when you have features that are useful, like Google Assistant. So Google Assistant totally works on this device. It works really, really well, and is an example of how a Google software can work really well on a third-party device like this. There are other examples, but this is one of the main ones. And then we go to the camera. Now, the camera is a focal point here, not just because there are two lenses to choose from, but also because LG has done a very good job. They've added this square camera here, which is very good for social media, if you're into that. But my favorite has always been the manual mode, going back to the G4 especially. So some of the photos I was able to capture really show what the camera is capable of when you play around with the manual settings and adjust ISO and shutter and white balance and things like that to get shots that the auto mode simply cannot capture. And you can do it in video too. It is a mode well worth learning. Now, it might seem like a bit of a gamble to go with the G6 based on what happened last year, but I would argue that that's not really the case. Because there's no real gimmicks and there's no real attempt to try and differentiate in a over-the-top way, if you will, it's really just about usability. And the camera's outstanding. I mean, especially the manual features that are offered, I think are great. LG continues to do a really good job in that regard. They've toned down a little bit on the UI, and they've made a phone that feels really nice to hold. It looks nice. The screen is beautiful. So it's hard to argue with the merits of the device from that perspective. It really comes down to taste, but you really can't go wrong with the G6. And that was my review of the LG G6. For Best Buy Plugin, I'm Teddy K. Thanks for watching.